Okay, let's talk draft. So I'm going to say this one was a little surprising because if you were paying attention to mocks, you wouldn't be shocked to see how pretty much the top four went. But around that, it did get a little more unexpected with the biggest, wait, what's going on to me being the Wolves coming out of nowhere to get Dillingham. Hopefully I'm not repeating too much of what I just said a few days ago when leading up to the draft. But with Risa Shea in Atlanta, the biggest thing is if he hits on all of his potential as a shooter. And this previous season for him, he had a stretch where he was like way better from three, and then he had another stretch where he struggled a little bit more. I mean, really, can he get to, let's say, 7 or 8 threes per game, shooting 40% or close to that? And then that can open up, attacking closeouts and just opening up the rest of his game. Because as far as his handle, like he can attack a closeout right now. And as far as fit, I mean, we all know how that fits next to, I've already predicted that I think Trey is going to be on the Hawks. And if they make a move, I think DeJounte is going to be gone. We all know Trey can create shots for shooters. His size should project well for his defense and everything. Okay, now let's go to Sar, number 2 with the Wizards. And we can kind of pair up Sar, the Denny trade, and then them going with Bub Carrington all in one. So first off, as far as moving Denny, that was just a straight-up assets trade. They said, okay, Blazers, you're willing to give us the 14th pick and then a pick way out in the distance, and Malcolm Brogdon, who we can probably flip for more, we're going to do it. And I'll get to Klingon when I get to him for the Blazers, but between Denny and Klingon, you just picked up 2 real defensive players. And Denny was showing more like juice off the dribble, which was a bit of what he was talked about when he first came into the league. It was surprising to see because of the jump that Denny made this season, and the fact that he's on a bargain contract that is descending for the next few years as well. Yeah, it's an interesting bet, and a lot of it just rides on how good Carrington is. We'll talk about him in a second, but for Sar, I think we all get it. Very versatile defensive big who can play in a bunch of different schemes, can protect the rim, can end up switched onto guys, and you feel okay with that. And offensively, it's going to be a little more of a process, and you would love for him to be on a team that has a creator, which is why I like the idea of him with Trey so much, but obviously Atlanta did not want to go that route. And now this is where you can look at Carrington a bit, who is a guard who likes to run screens, and he's a really good mid-range shooter, pull-up two-point shooter, a difficult shot maker, especially for mid-range as well, and he's really comfortable running screen actions. Now, with that, Bub he's interesting because his rim pressure it needs to improve, we'll just put it like that. And also, his off-the-catch threes have not been great either. He's been more comfortable making tough mid-rangers than taking catch-and-shoot threes. Now, will Alex Sar be ready right away to be an awesome screen setter and, operator in the short roll and putting the ball on the floor for 1 or 2 dribbles and having physical finishes with, guys guarding him at the rim? I don't know. Again, Sar's offense might be a bit more of a process. And in case this was not obvious, the Wizards, they are not going to be good next year. Anyway, I don't want to take too long on the top 4 picks here. Reed Shepherd to Houston, I think this one seemed like the most not surprising of all picks that we've heard about for what felt like at least over a month now. I've already said it in my previous video a couple days ago. I think he can play with Fred, he can play with Amen, he can play with Jalen Green. It all works because he's a shooter, he can make plays off the dribble. And when I say shooter, he is a great, great shooter. I don't want to oversimplify his game, but there's a reason pretty much every draft guy loves him. As far as guarding bigger bodies, we will see, but even then he did some good things as a perimeter defender, block shots as a guard, all this. 2.5 steals a game, can't forget about that. And then we go to Stephon Castle with the Spurs, a really good, switchable, point of attack defender with Wemby waiting on the back line. That pretty much writes itself. And then offensively, he can make plays with the ball, he can run screen actions. It's really just a matter of where does the jumper go to. And with him, Trey Jones, Sohan, I just did this in my previous video, so I don't want to go too long on it, unless you didn't see that one. In which case, the Spurs are making a bet of, we have guys who can, in the case of Trey Jones, playmaker, obviously their lineup numbers were better with him on the court this previous season. Sohan, the defense, Castle, the defense, and, playmaking off dribble stuff. It's just how many guys are you willing to put on the court that teams are not scared of from 3 like that, unless, they keep on improving. We'll see. Okay, now is where it started to get a little different than some of the mocks. So we had Ron Holland to the Pistons at number 5. I've already done a quick scan of Pistons internet. Not the warmest reception to this pick. And it's not because Ron Holland can't be good, because the physical tools are definitely there with Holland. He could step in and immediately have juice as a driver, transition guy, finisher. He's probably going to play mad on defense, and he'll probably pick up some fouls and maybe be a little too aggressive in getting out of position sometimes, but he could also make plays all over the place just given his physical gifts, right? But as far as the shooting is concerned, well, yeah, he's not been a shooter so far, and the Pistons are in desperate need of shooting. And so now for the Pistons, it's going to be a challenge just to see the lineup situations, right? Because, if Holland and Asar are in the game together, they could do some wild things in transition and on defense and the whole thing and just be physically overwhelming. And on the other end, teams are just going to dare him to make jump shots all day. And so just how that works with Cade trying to attack and with Duran trying to, get his rolls to the rim and Ivy trying to get inside as well. So yeah, we'll see. Fontecchio, they need him to just keep making threes. Number 6, Tijan Salon to the Hornets. The big thing with Salon is that he's tall. He's like 6'9", and he plays hard as hell. Now, as far as the jump shot, feel, off-dribble stuff, all that, that's all going to take some time. But if the Hornets can be healthy, specifically LaMelo and Mark Williams, then yeah, there could be a world in which LaMelo is creating shots for Salon, and then he can act as kind of the erratic energy guy, as Mark Williams is serving as your rim protector, and then Brandon Miller's getting buckets. I see the vision. I just think it's going to take a minute. Next, the Blazers, Donovan Clingan. This one was not too surprising if you were looking at the mocks and stuff. So I will just repeat what I said in my previous video, whether you saw it or not. I understand they have DeAndre Ayton. I understand they've got Time Lord, but unfortunately, Time Lord's health is just a real question every season moving forward now here. And then as far as Ayton, this past season, as far as production, the second half of his year was better than the first half. If you think Donovan Clingan is just that dude who can really be the centerpiece of a great defense and a screen setter for Scoot and all that, and Simons as well, then just take him and you just kind of go from there. Yeah, I think Ayton will start over Clingan day one, but would it surprise me if we fast forward 3 years and Clingan's the starting center of the Blazers and Ayton is somewhere else? No. But of course, Ayton's very talented and they got him the ball more in the second half of the year, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But everybody likes Clingan. Okay, now we get to the Spurs and the Wolves. The Wolves getting Dillingham, the Spurs getting, let me get this right. They got a 2031 unprotected pick and a 2030 top 1 protected pick. So the Spurs basically just said, yeah, we're good on the rest of this draft, and we want to just get more assets, and it wouldn't shock me if these picks ended up being moved at some point, maybe not next year, maybe not 2 years from now, maybe 3 years from now, I don't know. At some point, they're making the big trade to get an all-star next to Wemby. And as far as what the Wolves are going to look like 7 and 8 years out into the future, I don't know. But I will say it is decently aggressive, even if the picks are way out there, to move 2 picks to get to number 8. But Dillingham is a unique guy where he can get buckets. I did see Spurs fans not loving this, and I understand, in the moment, it's not fun to walk away with one guy when you were probably setting yourself up this whole time to get 2 guys in the top 10, right? As far as Dillingham to the Wolves, listen, Dillingham is one of the most fun guys in this draft. He is one of the most microwave-esque dudes where he can just go off, right? It's pull-up shooting, it's shiftiness, and the one fear with him was, well, is he big enough? He's 175 at being generous with his weight, But the Wolves are the perfect team to hide him defensively. Not only that, but he doesn't have to step in right away and be a big decision maker. Conley's still going to be the starting point guard next year. Dillingham's going to come off the bench. He's going to get opportunities to take shots. And then over time, perhaps he can grow into that role where, again, look, Gobert, Ant, Jaden McDaniels, Cat. There's big bodies everywhere to where you're not as concerned about him defensively. Don't get me wrong. Teams are still going to try to go at him, but you know what I'm saying. Nikhil's there as well. And you think about the series the Wolves just had against Dallas, right? Where it's funny, if you go look at Ant's stats for the series, they actually look pretty good overall. But we know that he was not good in those first 2 games. Cat also had his struggles in that series. And whether Dillingham is ready to walk into that type of a series as a rookie, I don't know. But the idea here is yo, Rob, we need some buckets. Please get in there. So yeah, that's cool. Zach Edey to the Grizzlies next. I do think at the very high end, I saw people suspecting, could Edey go around number 10? I also saw some suspecting more so, later teens, potentially the 20s. He's one of the most polarizing guys. Obviously, what he can do just as a brute force, just a physical tank that a lot of NBA guys are not going to be able to deal with, versus just him guarding in space. And so for the Grizzlies, what I immediately think of is him screening for Ja Morant. Him doing just all the dirty work around the basket as Jaren Jackson is, playing that help defense role. I do see the vision. It's just still a little wild just based on, again, how polarizing he was. And a lot of people were more comfortable with the idea of the Grizzlies trading up to get Donovan Clingan, right? So yeah, again, we'll just have to see how he deals with guarding in space. The Grizzlies have a lot of good defenders around him for that sort of thing. Now we have Cody Williams to the Jazz. The thing with Cody that I think is interesting with Utah is that Will Hardy clearly emphasizes spacing. Now, some of that emphasis did result in Walker Kessler having a weird year, giving Cody Williams the spacing to get downhill because he can dribble. That's cool. Now, he is going to have to fill out, but there is a possibility that we look up in a few years and Cody Williams is just solid at kind of everything. Switchable defensively, can handle some screen actions, even if he's not going to run your whole offense. and can shoot the whole thing. Now, he did deal with an ankle injury in college as well, which did make it a little weirder for guys to project him as well. Next up, Buzelis with the Bulls. I mean, they just picked up Josh Giddey, and there's already questions about Buzelis, and, is he a shooter like his last year of high school or like his year in the Ignite where he was not as good from outside? I don't know. Of course, we're still going to have to see what happens with Levine and DeRozan. I mean, if those guys are there, then, well, for Bulls fans' sake, let's just hope they're not, because Bulls fans they're desperate for this thing to go in a different direction. Buzelis is going to have Giddey and Kobe White creating shots for him. He is a good enough ball handler to attack off the catch, or if you get him moving off ball and then he's catching it on the move, he can do some stuff with that. As far as more self-creation stuff day one, that's probably more of a question. Now, his help defense projects pretty well. Now, the Bulls did just lose Caruso, so I'm not sure Buzelis getting some weak side contests is going to suddenly save their defense, but still, that matters. Also interested to see how much Ayo is handling the ball after they picked up Giddey. Now we go to Nikola Topic to the Thunder. And I will admit, right when I saw this, I immediately thought, is this going to be a trade somewhere else? No, the Thunder are holding on to Topic for now. Of course, he had the ACL injury, which had to influence where he ended up here. He's a really good passer. He's a really good just downhill pick-and-roll operator. Questions mostly around the jumper and, again, the injury. Look, clearly Topic is best with the ball in his hand, and with SGA and J-Dub, kind of tough to find the spot where Topic can just operate in pick-and-rolls all day for this team. So this may have been OKC just taking who they thought the best player was and just saying, whatever's going to happen, we don't know, but we took the guy who we think is the best at the spot. Next, we have the Kings for Devin Carter. Carter, really good defensive guard, who also grabs way more rebounds than you would expect a guy of his size to grab. And then he got better as a shooter this last year in college. So we've seen the impact that Keon Ellis has had for the Kings, just like that good defensive role player next to De'Aaron Fox. And I think this is them basically doubling up on that type of player. Granted, Keon is taller than Devin. Now, they do have Davion on the roster still, but people really like Devin Carter, so you take him. Miami goes Khalil Ware. He's a talented big guy. Philly goes Jared McCain. I've seen a lot of draft people really like McCain. Not the biggest dude in the world, but he's really tough. He's a great shooter. And then this will be the last one. Dalton Connect to the Lakers, a team that does need to take more threes. Connect can certainly do that, and he can move off ball and all that stuff. And I imagine JJ Redick knows how to draw up a set or two for a shooter. That being said, he is a rookie going to a LeBron James team, and typically that means that there is not a lot of time for you to figure out being a rookie. Right now, Connect is older, so maybe that suggests that he has a better chance of stepping in right away and just being good, but also defensively, that's where the questions with his game really come. And so we'll see. But the Lakers, they need to improve their three-point rate. I mean, they were towards the bottom of the league in three-pointers per game. It went up a little bit once they figured out their lineup stuff, but still, Connect, he can definitely shoot.